So, what on earth could a beloved children's nanny, an ancient mystical philosophy, and a really modern scientific debate possibly have in common? Well, we're about to pull on a hidden thread that connects all of them. And believe me, what we find is a worldview that's way more surprising than you might think, all drawn directly from our source materials. Our whole story really kicks off with this very strange, kind of mystical quote. It's from P.L. Travers' original Mary Poppins book. You've got a snake telling us that we're all one, birds, stones, stars, the whole shebang. It's a beautiful thought, for sure, but also a little bizarre for a children's story, right? So where did an idea like that even come from? To answer that, you have to look past the Disney film we all know and dive into the hidden world of the original books. And let me tell you, they're a lot more esoteric than you probably remember. Okay, so in the book, there's this incredible scene. It's Mary Poppins' birthday, and at the zoo, everything is flipped upside down. The animals are walking around free, and the humans are the ones locked in cages. The master of ceremonies for this whole affair, a giant cobra, who calls Mary his cousin and gives her his own shed skin as a birthday present. Yeah, clearly this is not your average trip to the zoo. And this is where it all starts to click. The author, P.L. Travers, wasn't just some children's storyteller. Our sources show she was a deep student of mysticism, theosophy, and the spiritual teacher G.I. Gurdjieff. All of a sudden, that weird scene at the zoo doesn't seem so random anymore. It's actually rooted in a very specific esoteric philosophy. And that snake's philosophy, well, that is our direct entry point into the core concept of this entire worldview. It's called the Great Chain of Being. So, what is the Great Chain of Being? At its heart, it's the belief that everything in the universe, from some divine source all the way down to a simple rock, is part of one single interconnected reality. There are no gaps, no real separations. As our theosophical sources put it, all is one. That snake wasn't just spouting poetic nonsense. He was voicing the central idea of this whole philosophy. Now, this idea stands in really sharp contrast to the traditional creationist view you find in Genesis. The Great Chain suggests this continuous flow where everything blends into everything else. Genesis, on the other hand, says that life was made in distinct kinds, with clear separations between them. We're talking about two fundamentally different ways of seeing reality itself. And a philosophical difference that big, it doesn't just stay in the realm of philosophy. It leads to a profound disagreement over science itself. It's not just about getting different answers, it's about using a whole different method to get there. According to the sources we're looking at, this conflict isn't just about fossils or genetics. It's a much deeper battle over what science is for and how it should even be done. Is its job to explain the past, or is it to produce real, tangible results in the present? The sources actually frame this using terms from the philosopher Francis Bacon. They argue that what they call evolutionism is mostly about seeking light, historical knowledge, explanations for how things came to be. In contrast, they champion a science that seeks fruit. Practical, useful, and repeatable results that actually benefit people today. And holding this viewpoint leads to some very strong claims. One source argues that far from helping science, evolutionary theory has actively held it back. They point to ideas like vestigial organs or junk DNA as prime examples, saying that when scientists just assumed something was a useless leftover from evolution, it stopped them from looking for and finding its actual function. So this alternative view of science then leads the sources to make a series of specific, testable predictions. It's their way of trying to produce that practical fruit we were just talking about. For instance, the sources predicted that what we call junk DNA would eventually be found to have a purpose. They predict that new diseases aren't a sign of evolution moving forward, but of degeneration from a more perfect original state. And they predicted that genetic studies of birds wouldn't give us a nice, neat evolutionary tree, but instead would show a messy picture of confusion. This worldview also leads to questioning some really fundamental scientific assumptions. The sources bring up a fascinating point. The international standard for the kilogram, an actual physical platinum cylinder kept in France, was found to have changed its mass over just a few decades. So the question they pose is this. If we can't even guarantee that a man-made constant is stable for 42 years, why are we so certain that a natural constant, like radioactive decay, has been perfectly stable for billions? So what does this all add up to? Well, the sources use a really powerful and famous metaphor to describe how they see the entire scientific establishment. They compare the whole situation to the emperor's new clothes.
The argument they're making is that the scientific consensus is held up not just by the evidence, but by a kind of social pressure. The idea is that people go along with the dominant theory because everyone in authority does, and anyone who dares to question it, as the quote says, is just laughed to scorn.
And that makes this a very, very high-stakes battle. This Martin Luther quote is used to frame the debate as the single most important point of conflict there is. From this perspective, being right about everything else means absolutely nothing if you flinch at that one point where the battle is truly raging. Wow. So, from the mystical zookeepers of Mary Poppins to a fundamental clash over the very nature of science, we've really traced a hidden worldview. And it suggests that what we often see as just a simple disagreement over the facts is actually something much, much deeper. And so, the ultimate question posed by all these sources is this: are we just witnessing a simple scientific disagreement that more evidence will one day resolve? Or are we actually seeing a fundamental clash between two entirely different and maybe even incompatible realities?